Welcome back to Taste for Adventure. Aaron, we've got a very exciting episode, a very, let's say, homebrew episode.
Yeah. It's all homebrewed beers today.
That's great.
Including 2 beers that we have brewed together for the show.
Exactly. That's the Big Brew Day, Altbier.
Yes, way back first Saturday in May.
Yeah.
But as you know, the Altbier needed to lager, so
it did.
we finally get to enjoy that.
That's incredibly exciting.
And see how that tastes.
Mm-hmm. We've also got the Kolsch that we brewed with Art.
Yeah, and the Kolsch, similar. It's an ale with a lager phase, but the Kolsch didn't need to lager for as long, and I did a little pre-sample of that, and it didn't have any of the off flavors you can sometimes get with a short lagering phase.
Oh, okay.
So it's ready to go, so we have that on tap as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then you seem to have jumped on the Hazy train. You've got a Hazy IPA on tap.
Yeah, I brewed a Hazy IPA. It's not my very favorite style, and I don't often brew them, but I wanted to see what I could do with the style. Sure. So excited to share that with you and get your thoughts.
Very nice, yeah. And so I think what we're going to do with this episode is we're just kind of taste through. We're kind of talk about the recipe, really taste through and see what we can pick out.
Yeah,
these ingredients.
Yeah, I thought we could maybe kind of revisit some of the key ingredients we use in each of these recipes, and then see how that might have contributed to the final product in our glasses.
Yeah, well, that sounds really exciting to me. Why don't we try? We'll try that Altbier, kind of the first brew we did for the show.
Definitely,
yeah. That's Random Encounters.
Random Encounters, the Altbier. Yeah.
Random Encounters.
Yes.
Hey, cheers.
Hey.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
We've got our very own beer here.
You know, I think what a lot of people getting started in beer brewing, like the biggest challenge they have is waiting to drink the final product. You know, it's such an exciting brew day. There's so much going on, and then it sits and then it waits.
Sits and waits.
Right?
It's a very patient hobby, beer brewing.
It is. But if you have a good pipeline and you're brewing all the time, then you're always pulling beer off.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been here more than a couple of times, and you've had usually at least one on tap.
Yeah,
in all the times I've come since
I have
here.
a lot going on. I think this is what was like our 181st brew or something. So
that's amazing.
I've brewed a lot.
Yeah, we're over 200 now.
Not quite.
Not quite.
No, okay. I'm at 185 or so.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I'm gonna
kind of go through the whole sort of meta here. It's very dark.
It is pretty dark.
It's pretty I mean, you can't exactly see through it, but you can definitely. We've talked about this before, where it's like you can see like that kind of brown red sort of coloration to it. So it's not pitch black, and then it's also not hazy at all either. I mean, if it wasn't so dark, you could see right through it.
Yeah, it's probably maybe even a little.
You can see through it a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe a little hazier.
It's a little dark, I would say, for the style. A little darker than I expected, but it does. I was really happy with the clarity and even the color. If it was a touch less dark, I think it would be about perfect.
Okay.
But actually really pretty happy with it. I mean, you're not going to mistake this for a stout.
No,
you know?
No, not quite.
It's even maybe a little light for a brown ale, so it's probably okay.
Yeah, I think so. A very nice nose on this.
Yeah, I'm getting like a...
Very roasty.
Kind of roasty. I'm getting like a really rich crackery in there too. Maybe a little biscuit.
Mm-hmm. Kind of picking up.
So I'm actually gonna pull up our recipe.
Oh yeah, pull up the recipe there.
And so you can check out our actual Big Brew Day video for the full recipe and instructions. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna kind of refer back to that a little bit, and gonna take a look at the ingredients and see if we can see any of these ingredients coming through here to the final product.
Okay.
So just a touch of Carafa, which is a German kind of a light roast malt, and I think that's where some of that roastiness is coming from. And also that's going to be the main reason why it's darker. Like,
okay,
just a little bit of Carafa went a pretty long way with this one. We have a wheat malt, a pound of Cara Red, and then otherwise it's Pilsner and Munich. So surprisingly, only 4 ounces of the actual roast malt is what we used, and it turned out this color.
Wow! Yeah. If used any more, it'd be pitch black.
Yeah. So a very little bit of roast malt goes a very long way.
Yeah,
in brewing.
I'll say.
I think that Pilsner is where some of that cracker is coming from. Yeah. The Munich probably for some of that breadiness. And probably some of that Cara Red is probably where some of the nuttiness is coming from.
That's what, yep. I'm like trying to I'm just like straining to think like, what is this like scent that I'm smelling?
Yeah.
It's nuttiness.
It's like a
nuttiness.
Yeah. I think that's mostly coming from the Cara Red and probably a little bit from that Cara Munich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
From the Carafa rather.
Got it.
Well, I'm excited to try this.
Yes. That's a very strong malty flavor. Very strong, kind of like. Let's see if I can get my malt foo going. Do we want to call this one like doughy? Is doughy appropriate?
There's probably some doughiness in there, and that would probably be more from like the Munich malt. Okay. And Munich malt makes up more than half of the full malt bill.
Sure.
So yeah, it can definitely have some doughiness.
Yeah.
I still get a fair amount of like dark bread crust and some nuttiness as well.
Yeah, the nuttiness really comes through. Actually, having taken a couple of sips, the clarity is very apparent just looking at it through the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of that really happens because of the lagering. When you cold age a beer for a really long time, any particulates in the beer that could cause haze usually really do drop out.
Down,
yeah, and that's why a lot of the German beers are really known for being both very malty and very clear.
Yeah,
that's just the German style of brewing.
It's not like super carbonated, but it's got a nice carbonation to it.
Now, we only used spalt hops in this beer.
Okay.
So, any of the bitterness, the flavor, the aroma that comes from hops, we can identify that as a spalt hop characteristic.
Okay.
Because that's the only hop that we used.
And what are those spalt? What is the spalt hop characteristic?
So, let's try to find that out. I'm getting a very clean bitterness. It balances that maltiness because the maltiness doesn't come off as like sweet or overpowering or anything. I think it's a nice counterbalance, but it also does not finish bitter at all.
It doesn't finish bitter at all. If the bittering's there just purely for balance.
Yeah.
It's not imparting any flavor. It's not citrusy. It's not piney or anything like that. If anything, I guess it'd be more like on the nutty side, but it's just a really clean, balancing bitterness.
That's right.
It doesn't play. It plays a full-on supporting role.
Yeah.
If the malt is the tank, the hops are the healer.
Well, I think that it does support it really well, though, and it keeps that malt intensity in check by counterbalancing it really, really well. Without taking the center stage. It's a really good sort of sidekick to the malt in this beer. It is hard to pinpoint much hop flavor.
Yeah.
It was really kind of more of a bitterness addition. We added some more of as like a flavor addition at let's see here. We added an ounce at 10 minutes.
Okay.
But it's not a very intense, aromatic hop. So what little I am getting is kind of like a hay-like and very soft, noble quality hop. And this is a noble hop. So
gotcha. And that's the great thing about having your own kegerator system at home. It's like, I'm still tasting through. Definitely still tasting through. hay-like, I can definitely say hay-like. I mean, it's kind of that, yeah. I mean, so much of beer tasting is just learning the verbiage. Like, learning how to express what you're tasting. So, like, the nuttiness was like, oh, yeah, of course. The hay, the hay is like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
This beer turned out great.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and thanks for brewing it with me. It was a good, really good brew day.
I love doing it.
I wish we had a traditional German example of an Altbier that we could have side by side to see how close we landed to a bullseye.
Yeah.
An Altbier isn't a style that is very easy to find imported here in the States.
No, it is not.
So I'll keep my eye out for one just to try it. But overall, I feel like, according to the BJCP, I think it landed generally within the guidelines, and I'm really happy with this beer. It is a pretty dark beer, but it's only coming in at barely over 4% alcohol.
So it's not a heavy hitter at all.
Not a heavy hitter. It's very like refreshing without being very hoppy.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, this is something you could enjoy, summer night on the patio. This is a perfect, summer bonfire beer. It's a little chilly out, it's like kind of maybe like a 60-degree evening.
Sure.
Throw some fire on in the pit, grab a couple of these random encounters, and you're feeling pretty good.
Well, it's a nice counterbalance to the traditional lawnmower beers that might be, might be like a wheat beer or like fruity or kind of hoppy.
Yeah, you drink your Sierra Nevada while you're mowing the lawn, and then you're unwinding with a little random encounter.
Yeah. And it's good if you're not really into hops or bitterness. If you like a maltier beer, but you find that those kind of weigh you down or give you a headache or are too heavy for the summer, I think that alt beer is a great style because you get that real deep malt richness without it being heavy and without it being too strong.
Yeah. It's another thing. It's not a heavy hitter. 4% alcohol. You could have a few of these and still be just pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. So the second brew that we did.
Yes.
And as of this recording, the life of the channel has been pretty short so far.
Yeah.
I've already done 2 beer brewing episodes.
That's right. Yeah.
The second one being the Kolsch that we did with Art.
Yeah, and that one should be really interesting, and we should be able to really pick out the ingredients because that was a smash Kolsch.
That was.
It had 1 malt, 1 yeast, and 1 hop. So
that should be pretty easy.
We should really be able to pick those things out. Yep. I do not have that one on tap. I actually bottled that one up for tonight's episode, so we can give that a shot.
Perfect. All right, here we have Kolsch Encounters.
That's right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it just kind of, the naming convention just kind of came, like, just random. Well, you had Random Encounters.
Had Random Encounters, which was a kind of a D&D reference.
Yep.
When you get into a random fight, it's a random encounter.
Yeah.
Right?
And then Kolsch Encounters.
Which is a play off with the movie title. So it just so happens that we're...
Just one right after another. So that was kind of funny realizing that.
Yeah, the encounter duo.
Yeah. Interesting. This is this looks to me, it just has the visual appeal of like apple cider.
Yeah.
If you didn't know what you were drinking, and it's like, oh yes, apple juice. I'm about to drink apple cider, apple juice, very, very crystal clear yellow.
It is sparkling clear.
Maybe a little goldy, but kind of more yellow.
I think you're right. Like kind of like apple cider is a perfect like approximation. Doesn't have as much head as I would like. I bottled a couple bottles, so we could try them.
You kind of lose carbonation a little bit when you bottle like that, right?
Yeah, unfortunately I did. Yeah. So the head isn't as good as from the tap, but hopefully it will still hold up here in our tasting. All right, so
on the nose.
Yeah, what do you think of the aroma on this?
I can definitely pick out like the crackery kind of bready qualities.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else there.
I'm getting a touch of like honey-like sweetness.
Yep. All right, I didn't want to come out and say it right away just in case my nose was on the fritz or anything like that. But and here the honey's appropriate because I remember a couple of times where it's like, oh, the honey's not appropriate to the style.
Yeah, I mean, honey in some instances can indicate an oxidation.
Right.
And actually,
with a Kolsch.
And we noticed that with a Kolsch, yeah. But I think in this one, it's a combination of the hops that we picked and this like malty base where it has a touch of sweetness. It's not just a super dry malt.
Okay, good.
And that's why, and we only used the one malt, and if you only used a Pilsner malt, it would be much paler than this.
Okay.
But having this nice gold color, this is a malt that they, it's not just a base malt. There is some character to it, and I think that character is coming off it as some of that like little bit of like honey-like sweetness in this malt.
It's very nice.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting a touch of like almost like orange blossom in here too.
Orange blossom. I don't know if my palate's that sophisticated.
Like a faint bit of orange and a little bit of floral. That might be more from the hops.
Okay.
But I think that the honey sweetness from the malt is helping to kind of build the whole kind of bouquet together with
Sure. That makes sense.
It does smell really nice though. So as a reminder, this is actually a Kolsch malt that was provided from a maltster in Cologne, Germany.
And that's right.
I think a Kolsch malt is kind of like a pale ale malt, and I would, given the color of this final beer, I would say that it's probably like a darker pale ale malt.
Okay.
Because it's really a nice rich color for only being one base malt used.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for a smash beer. I mean, you're really exemplifying because that's all there is. You're not going into crazy adjuncts. You're not going into, 4 different kinds of hop, variation of different stage additions.
Yeah.
You really it's very Spartan. You've got the 3 main kind of things that you're going for.
Yeah. Well, even in the Altbier that we just tried, there are 4 or 5 different malts in that. So we had to kind of guess which malts were contributing which parts of the beer. We know that it was just the Kolsch malt contributing all of the malt flavors in this beer.
Yep. And I mean, the flavor, it's very bready. You've got that like touch of honey. It's not like eating like honey roasted peanuts.
No.
But the honey's
subtle,
there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it still finishes really dry. I think a lot of the crackeriness kind of
graham cracker might be a little bit appropriate.
Oh yeah, maybe
graham cracker.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like a pastry stout graham cracker.
Right.
But cracker with a little bit of that honey sweetness, like the honey grams.
Honey grams.
Like the honey graham cracker.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. To a small degree.
Yeah.
I think that was a very good descriptor.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, what about the hop that you're getting? I used Hellertau Tradition, which is a more modern Hellertau hop that is supposed to be a little bit more fruity and a little bit more floral than the more subtle, it's called Hellertau Tradition, but like a traditional just Hellertau hop would be a little bit more of that like hay-like, herbal, floral, maybe a little bit spicy. I'm not getting any spicy from this.
No spicy for this one. That could be where I'm getting kind of those like secondary and tertiary flavors and scents is from that, where it's like, I've got you've got the crackery, you've got the honey, but there's something else there. There's something else in the background that's really contributing.
I think that's where some of that, where I mentioned like the orange blossom is maybe coming from. Kind of that subtle orange without being like really a sharp citrus,
right?
And
it's
floral.
Not it's not a citra hop.
No, I think some of that is coming through in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost a touch mead like between the orange blossom and the little bit of honey note.
Yeah.
This would be a really nice beer to blend with a mead and make like a braggot with.
A braggot.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we're getting into territory.
A braggot is basically a beer mead hybrid.
Yeah.
Where you would brew a beer and brew a mead and blend the two.
Okay.
Or you could brew one together and just, it's like 50% of the fermentable should be honey.
Okay.
And that's actually called a braggot.
We'll have to do a whole episode on braggots. If we can find any examples.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's some local meaderies that probably would do some. I think I made one once with the Homebrew Club a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, a Kolsch would be a really nice base, I think, for a braggot because it has some of. It's more malt derived. It's less of like the intensely like sweet, like flavors you might get from a mead, or just really strongly alcoholic. But I think the flavors would mesh well if it had more honey in it.
Yeah, I think so too. You think smash Kolsch, or you think any kind of Kolsch would kind of be pretty good for that?
Maybe any, but this recipe was so easy to brew. I mean, brewing this and adding, replacing half of the malt with honey might be a really interesting exercise.
I remember that Big Brew day, me and Art just kind of just hung out and talked for a lot of the beer just because of how easy it was.
Yeah. It was a super easy beer to brew, and a super easy beer to drink.
The insanely easy beer to drink. It's very nicely creamy, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely not bitter. I think that the hop presence is more in. It's really in concert with that malt really nicely.
Yep. Very balancing for sure.
I think it might have a touch of esters. I think that might also be helping with some of that like orange quality to it too. I don't think it's just the hops.
Yeah. In my own learning, I think esters is the kind of more like esoteric sort of. I'm like learning more of like, okay, what am I looking for in an ester? Like, what is an ester in my mind? Like, trying to like learn exactly what an ester is and tastes like that's been a little bit on the outside for me.
And I think that's natural for everybody.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
If you're getting kind of a fruity flavor, but you don't think it's really hop derived, chances are it could be esters.
I might just have to go and eat a bunch of plums one day.
Yeah.
And to figure that out. Just go to the grocery store and buy a bottle of that, like Palm.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Well, and a good beer should have all of its ingredients building off of each other and working with each other. So it's hard to get a beer that just says, this is an ester bomb. You don't really want that in a beer. You want the esters to work with the hops. You want the hops to work with the malts.
Right.
And have a nice balance drink in your glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
this is good.
I dare say I think we achieved that with this beer. As simple as it was, I'm really pleased with this.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why the phrase exists. Keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good beer. It's nice. It's simple. It's nice to take a break from the fruity pebble IPA.
Yeah.
It's nice to take a break from the 2019 Dark Lord.
Sure.
It's nice to get back to basics with just a simple smash Kolsch.
Yeah.
It's not a super common style, but
simple, but still,
but good.
But like with a depth of nuanced flavors.
Yeah.
Like none of the flavors are smack you over the head like some of the styles you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But there's really a lot going on there. It's just they're not super intense where they'll burn out your palate on your tongue.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this is ideal like lawnmower beer. We're in the middle of summer as of this recording. This is definitely one for this is one to mow your lawn to, and then go to random encounters.
That's right.
That's your bonfire beer. Well, we've got one more that we're talking about.
Yeah, so this is not one that we brewed for the show. This is one that I brewed. It is called Flocculation Violation.
Yes.
It is my Hazy IPA.
All right, so we went pretty clearly from apple juice to like a pineapple juice. This is like no light escapes through this at all.
No.
This is the haziest thing I've ever seen.
It's like hop milk.
It's like hot milk. Yeah.
We went from crystal clear to like can't even see a shadow through this beer.
Like this, that is bonkers.
Well, I said that was one of my goals for making a hazy IPA.
You have quite handily succeeded.
Yeah, one of the things in the BJCP it says about a New England IPA is the official.
Oh, really? For a hazy?
Category. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's called New England IPA. It should be like cloudy or opaque or hazy, but it shouldn't have like visible like hops like floating in the beer.
Right. It shouldn't have chunks or anything.
Right.
Like that.
Right. So I think getting a uniform, consistent opacity and haze is one of the key things for the style.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very nice. Now, where did flocculation violation come from? What is going on there?
So flocculation is a term in brewing.
Okay.
That it probably also in like chemistry or science or whatever too, where flocculation is when there are particulates that float around in a solution of a liquid, right? And the process of the solids basically clumping together and dropping out to make the solution clear, that's called flocculation.
Yeah.
So, or precipitation is another one. Like,
sure.
So like, think of like in the air when the humidity gets together and then it forms raindrops and it precipitates, right? That's how you get rain. Same idea with beer, and then like when it's more of the solids though precipitating out, like chunks of hops or like yeast, that's called flocculation.
That nose very citrusy. Kind of. It's not any like one citrus fruit, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just orange juice or cantaloupe or I guess not cantaloupe.
Well, I used to melon.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's not. But cantaloupe not being a citrus fruit.
Well, yeah, but okay.
But not. It's not like orange juice. It's not like. So it is a very. And it's so. I think we've talked about this on the show before. It's just amazing what you can do with hops and malts because there's not a drop of fruit in this beer.
Right.
And yet it's just so fruity, citrusy.
It tastes like a tropical fruit smoothie, right?
Yeah. It's all just from hops.
That's right.
I think this turned out. I didn't help you brew this one, but I think this turned out really great. Do we have anything else that we're kind of looking at? I know yeast usually plays a somewhat important role.
Yeah. In hazy IPAs, there are a ton of different yeast strains, and there's more coming out. It seems like every month there's like a new strain. The Kvik strains are really popular because they can ferment very fast at very hot temperatures with a ton of like tropical fruit aromas without any of the hop burn.
Good,
so the Kvik is great different strains of yeast, and those are available in dry or liquid from basically all hop manufacturers now make some kind of strain of Kvik.
Okay.
For this one, I actually used it's called Tropical IPA yeast from Omega.
Go figure.
Yeah. So I wanted to keep punching up that tropical note, and I also continuing that real hazy theme. It was noted in Omega's website that their tropical IPA yeast does not flocculate out very well. They said it only has like moderate to low flocculation, and they almost listed that as like it was a flaw.
Okay, wow. Okay, I was gonna say, so it's like, wow, so not as a selling point.
No, they were like, yeah, it's got these great tropical flavors, but it doesn't flocculate out very well. And I was like, well, that's exactly what I'm looking for this beer.
Big selling point.
So another big one that is gaining a ton of popularity is actually London Ale 3 yeast is kind of the go-to like hazy IPA yeast right now. Yeah.
I mean, I would say overall, this isn't even quite my typical style of beer, and I'm enjoying this immensely. Very, very much enjoying this.
Well, we talk about the balance between like the hop bitterness and like the malt sweetness, right?
Right.
And even though it finished pretty dry, so it doesn't have a lot of sweetness or caramel malts to balance the hops. The alcohol can actually provide a perceived sweetness. So I was relying more on a higher alcohol content to provide the counter punch to the hops instead of like a caramel malt or a residual sweetness.
And chemistry, in particular beer chemistry, just blows me away. It's like, all right, well, I don't even have to add any like actual sweetness to it. I can just make it seem. It's like an illusion.
Yeah, I mean, between like some of the thickness that the oats provide and just the high alcohol that everything else provided, it helped to round everything else out without adding an actual sweetness to the beer.
That's amazing.
So, well, that's our 3 beers.
It's 3 lineups, 3 homebrews.
Yeah, and
it's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm not always 100% thrilled with all the beers I brew, but I'm really proud of these 3.
I think they turned out really exceptional.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for helping me brew. And
happy to take the title of co-brewer.
And tasting along with me and giving me your notes too. So looking forward to brewing more with you. Maybe
more
for the show as well. So
more brew episodes. We got a lot of really great episodes that are just out right now. In general, you can watch both of our home brewing episodes. Get some beer recipes for you.
That's right.
Try and make a clone of random encounters or Kolsch encounters.
Yeah.
And then. I mean, we got a lot of great content coming out, so definitely stick around, stay tuned. But I think that's what we got for this one.
That's it. So thank you for joining us, and until next time.
Cheers.